Homestead, y'all. As you can see in the beginning of this video, Christy and I have been cleaning up our garden spot. We're preparing for next year's garden. We're no-dig, no-till, regenerative gardeners, so in the fall of the year we plant cover crops. We clean up the garden, we pull up all our landscape fabric, roll it up, put it up in the barn loft, so that way next year it's in good shape and ready to go. This year we did leave part of this landscape fabric here because we have peppers still growing here. You can see them down at the end of the row. They're still putting off plenty of peppers. We do have enough peppers to make it through till next year. We have them freeze dried. But these things had so many peppers on them that we wanted to leave them and get as many peppers as we could before they freeze out. But what we're going to do now is, now that we have all the landscape fabric up, we have everything cleaned up, we're going to go through here and we're going to plant our cover crops. Now I'll put a list of what cover crops we use in the description, but we use chicory, winter wheat, winter peas, 6 different types of clover, Daikon radishes, regular radishes, turnips, broccoli, and kale that we'll be planting in this, plus a few others. And like I said, I'll put the list in the description below. But what we'll do is we'll come in here, we'll go ahead and put our cover crops in, and then we'll I have a few wheelbarrow loads of compost, of chicken manure compost and pig manure compost, and we're going to go back over it and just spread it lightly on top of it, and that'll help give our cover crops a jump start, plus it'll add more organic matter to our soil. We grow cover crops in here because cover crops add just about everything we need to grow vegetables. Like I said, we're regenerative gardeners. What that means is that we could lock the gates on our homestead and not bring anything into it and still grow a beautiful garden. At least that's our goal. We're almost there. This year I did have to bring in about 2 yards of compost. Hey baby. To finish up the garden, but by next year I've added more compost piles, so by next spring we shouldn't have to bring anything into the homestead to grow a big beautiful garden. Now this was our 6th year growing no-till, no-dig, regenerative gardening, and it just made a huge difference. It's unreal the difference it makes compared to tilling the soil and using chemical fertilizers. We don't use any chemical fertilizers or any chemical sprays of any kind, no pesticides, and our garden just did wonderful this year. It's probably the best garden we've ever grown. So for now, like I said, we're going to go ahead, we're going to spread our cover crops, we're going to go ahead and put some compost on top of it. I'll take you over here to another spot that we planted cover crops about 3 weeks ago. The vegetables we had there were our early squash and our early zucchini. They finished up at the end of September, and so we pulled the landscape fabric up, went ahead and planted some cover crops, throwed some compost on top of it, and it's on up, you'll see, about 1 foot high. Now one thing I did want to mention, you know, each year we pull anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 pounds of vegetables out of our garden. I don't know if you've drove around in your neighborhood or in the country, or even if yourself has a garden spot that's been in the same place year after year, and it looks sunk in. And what that is that's where over the years people have pulled vegetables out of there and they haven't replaced it, plus that's erosion. You know, it's where people till their soil up and then it rains real hard, it erodes the soil away, it erodes the nutrients away, and then eventually it has a sunk-in spot, looks like a huge swimming pool. So when they get heavy rains, it just kind of holds water and floods. And I see that on the forums all the time and on Facebook, on the Facebook groups. You know, people are saying, what can I do with this? You know, and by being a regenerative gardener, we're putting in as many pounds of organic matter as the vegetables we're taking out. So each year we're adding compost in the fall, we're adding a bunch of compost in the spring. So that way, if you look at our garden spot here, we've had this garden spot for about 10 years. It's not sunk in. Of course, it's not perfectly level either. Each year, this time of year, whenever we pull everything up, I do take advantage of that and take a hard rake and rake into the low spots, because when we cleared this, we had to take the stumps out of here, and your stumps settle, the dirt settles, so you get low spots where the stumps were. So we've been, year after year, we've been gradually filling those stump holes in. But other than that, we do not till the soil. I'll just take a hard rake, and I've already done it for this year. I took a hard rake and tried to level it up, and then the springtime, before we plant our garden, when I put more compost in, I'll put compost in those low spots. But you can see right here, there's already some chicory and clover growing. Anywhere we didn't plant vegetables this year, we made sure that we had cover crops growing in it, so that way we don't get any erosion. The chicory is one that I really love planting in the garden spot because its roots can go up to 18 inches deep into your soil, so that's putting organic matter in the form of roots 18 inches deep down in the soil, and it'll bust through some of the hardest clays, the hardest hard pans that there is. So chicory's a great one to have in your garden, great cover crop. Plus, once you terminate that chicory, and that's when we do it in the spring, we'll terminate it, we chop and drop it, those roots will rot, and that'll provide channels for more moisture to go deeper into your soil. So you won't have to water. This year we only had to water one time this year, and that was early spring. We had a dry couple weeks and our plants were just up a couple inches. So I did have to water one time, but the rest of the summer I didn't water at all. But to be fair, we did have kind of a wet summer this year, but still, I think even if we had a typical summer where we had 2 and 3 weeks without rain, we wouldn't have had to water our garden at all because our soil is absorbing so much moisture. But for now, let me go ahead, I'll show you this other cover crop, this other little spot real quick, and then we'll get started. We'll go ahead and finish spreading our cover crop seed and get some compost on it, and then we'll be good to go for the rain tomorrow. Okay, this is the spot I was telling you about. You can see the chicory's grown up excellent. It's probably 18 inches to 2 foot tall. You can see our Daikon radishes, our winter peas in here, our winter wheats coming up, some mustard in here, we have broccoli in here. And like I said, I'll put a list in the description of everything that we use for cover crops. But this has been in the ground about 3 weeks now. It's been planted about 3 weeks, so you can see how well it's doing. I'll take you around and I'll show you some cover crops we have in one of our fields and show you some of the Daikon radishes that we let go to seed this year, so that way we could get seed for our garden spot here in just a minute. But the Daikon radish, they'll get about that big around. They get about twice the size of a soda pop can or a Coke can, and they'll go anywhere from 10 inches to 16 inches deep into your soil, and they absorb nitrogen all winter long. Daikon radish is probably my favorite cover crop to plant because they act like a nitrogen battery and they absorb nitrogen all winter long. Then in the spring they rot, so they're feeding the microbes in your soil, and then they release the nitrogen just in time for you to plant your garden. Alright, that has our cover crop seed planted, our light layer of compost. That was 3 of our big 1 yard cart wheelbarrow loads of compost. You can see I just lightly spread it over top of the cover crop seed. That'll add more organic matter to our garden, and it'll help our cover crop seed grow. Once we get a rain, we're supposed to get rain tonight and tomorrow all day, so we should get a good soaking on this. So I'm hoping that we'll have enough warm weather that this cover crop will take off great. I'll try to make a video in about a month and show you where it's at, but it should take off. These are all winter cover crop seeds, so they should grow all winter long. So if you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments how we garden, about regenerative garden, organic gardening, no-till, no-dig, please leave it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.